بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. We pick up now again, inshallah, in the situation that the brothers find themselves. They had promised their father that they would not return to their tribe, they would not return to Palestine without Benyamin. He had told them, you're not going to lose them like how you lost Yusuf. And they had promised that they would not return without him. But now, Yusuf, and again, they don't know he's Yusuf yet, the one responsible for all the produce and all the goods and all the resources in Egypt, is insisting that he keep Benjamin with him because he found the mug or the glass, the jeweled glass of the king in his sack of goods. And so the brothers have to return home without Benjamin. The eldest one says, you know what? I'm not going to go face my father again. I remember what he looked like. I remember the situation when we came back to him without Yusuf. And we promised him we'd come back without Benjamin. I will stay here. The rest of you go back and explain to him the situation that we're in. And so the next part of the surah that we reflect in today is the situation of Prophet Yaqub at that time and the interactions that he's having with his sons. Now there's no Yusuf and there's no Benjamin. In all of these years, he hasn't forgotten Yusuf. He hasn't lost hope in Yusuf. Why? Why, subhanAllah? Because Yusuf had that dream. Sayyidina Yaqub knew that Yusuf would become a great prophet. He would become a great man. There's no way that when his sons had told him that Yusuf had been eaten by a wolf, that Yusuf had actually been eaten by a wolf. Sayyidina Yaqub knew that Yusuf was somewhere out there. He was alive and he was well, and that his father, his family, his brothers, they would be reunited with him, right? But in these years, he feels pain. He's wondering about Yusuf. Where is he? What is he doing? What is he going through? Like the feeling of a father, like the feeling of a mentor or a teacher. Remember the relationship that we talked about. So he's been making dua for Yusuf. He's been trying to find him. He's been wondering about him. He's been praying for him and hoping that he will be united with him soon. And so the brothers, they don't know the dream. And so they don't realize why their father is in this state. They don't realize why he keeps on bringing up Yusuf. And so in this part of the surah, we learn about patience. We learn about hopefulness, being hopeful, never losing hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We learn about who do you turn to when you have that hardship or when you have that sense of grief in your heart. We learn that from Sayyidina Yaqub alayhi salam. He says to his sons, إِنَّمَا أَشْكُو بَثِّي وَحُزْنِي إِلَى اللَّهِ. Verily, I only complain of my pain and my sadness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't want your sympathy. I don't want you to feel from me. I'm not complaining to you. I don't want nothing from you. Sabrun Jameel. I have beautiful patience. Yes, I am patient, but I have a relationship with my Creator. I can cry to my Creator. I can call on my Creator. I can seek of Him. This is what we learn from Yaqub. Yes, we should be patient. Patience takes time. We can be tested for long. Yaqub was tested for years, not knowing what's happened to his beloved Yusuf, but he was patient. He did not lose faith. He continued to call subhanahu wa ta'ala, continued to complain to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We learn from Yaqub that when we are in these moments of hardship and pain and loss and difficulty and sadness, and being tested for long time, we always turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We never lose hope. We know that there is, again, like I said, something at the end. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is preparing us for something. That Allah is the all-wise. He is the Almighty. He can say kun fayakun. He can make things change now. But there is a reason why there is no victory now. There's a reason why there's a test now. There's a reason why things are being delayed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's hikmah and His wisdom. And Yaqub is very much aware of that. But he continues to turn to Allah and call on Allah and seek from Allah. This is what we learn from him. And subhanAllah, his sons and the people around him think that he's crazy. They say to him, you've even lost, and he does even lose his eyesight from his sadness and his crying over Yusuf, right? And then he says to them, subhanAllah, إِنَّهُ لَا يَيْأَسُ مِنْ رَوْحِ اللَّهِ. Verily, nobody should lose hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِلَّا الْقَوْمُ الْكَافِرُونَ. إِلَّا the ones, except the people who are disbelieving. So what Yaqub is teaching us is that those who lose hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it is actually an aspect of kufr. It's actually an aspect of losing your belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, if you know His names, His attributes, His characteristics, if you know that Allah is the creator, the sustainer, the one that is capable of all things, the almighty, the all wise, then you will never lose hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Regardless of how bad the situation looks to you, you know that Allah knows best, you know that Allah is wise, and you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has something better in store. And this is what Yaqub is teaching us, that we should never lose hope and that we should always turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these difficult times. So it is this hopefulness and this turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and never giving up on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and seeking from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and complaining to Allah and crying to Allah and knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is there for you. This is what we learn in this part of the story from Sayyidina Yaqub. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us this Sabrun Jameel, this type of beautiful patience in which we can endure for a long time. And as we endure, we do not lose hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do not lose faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do not become from those who are hopeless and become like the disbelievers. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always make us from those who are hopeful, who turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in difficult times as we turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in good times. And we have hope in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have hope, and we know that verily Allah's victory is close. We know that verily there is a light at the end of the tunnel. We know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has better and greater things in store for us, that He will take us out of this test if we pass, as Yusuf passed, and as Yaqub passed, and as Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions did in the difficult times in which this surah was being revealed to them in Mecca, inshallah. And inshallah, next episode, we were going to pick up from here, in which Yusuf alayhi salam actually reveals himself to his brothers so many years later. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.